Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the StormDefender product training. The StormDefender door is within the Defender series, and it was launched November 7th. And there are two models within this door series. It is model PSD 361 and model PRSD 361, which is the fire-rated version. Okay, so before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. You can submit any questions through the questions portal, and then at the end, all questions will be reviewed and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. And also, this will be recorded, so it will also be posted to the Dealer Resource Center, so it can be accessed if you do want to follow up on anything that we go over today. Okay, so to get started, just a really brief description on what the StormDefender door is. It is a door that is designed specifically with life safety in mind for safe room protection against tornadoes and hurricanes. So I'm sure you're wondering, why was the StormDefender door created? So the US experiences more tornadoes than any other country. And the most intense tornadoes are actually increasing in frequency. So in 1965, the worst outbreak expected over a 5-year period was 40 tornadoes. And in 2015, the worst outbreak expected over 5 years was 80 tornadoes. So as you can see, it actually doubled. So because of this, safe room construction has rose, and so did the request for tornado doors. So now I'm going to pass it off to Heather Bender, and she is going to go through the code listings with you.
Thanks, Tiffany. So as a kind of continuation of, why was the StormDefender created? The StormDefender has a code-driven component. You may have seen the ICC 500 and the FEMA 361. Standards can be confusing, so I want to talk about the differences between FEMA 361 and ICC 500. Again, you may see them together or separate. You may see requests for tornado doors, but usually when ICC 500 or requirements or standards are involved, you're always going to see ICC 500 or FEMA 361. So years ago, FEMA created, it's called the P361, and that's Publication 361, and it was guidance for safe room construction for those who are in areas of high occurrences of tornadoes or hurricanes. As time went on, like Tiffany said, storms getting more violent, more frequent, and after some particularly tragic events involving schools, the ICC, International Code Council, stepped in, took what FEMA had done in the 361 publication and codified it in the form of the ICC 500. So that's where it becomes mandatory. The ICC 500 not only said with what materials these safe rooms need to be built, but where they should be built. So you'll see on the slide there's a picture of the U.S. in the 250 mile per hour zone there. That's where safe rooms are required in new construction or heavy remodels. The types of buildings include K through 12, police stations, emergency operations centers. But notice that this only has guidance or mandates, if you will, for tornadoes. Hurricanes, they provide guidance and they offer direction, but there are no mandates like there are for Tornado Alley. And again, the ICC 500, it dictates the performance of the product. Our door assemblies were tested to a specific PSF, both positive and negative, and impact testing, which differs between hurricane and tornado. And when I say, there's the impact testing, what does that really mean? So to kind of put it into perspective, this next slide here, we call it the bowling ball slide. I'm sure you can guess why. It reflects the impact criteria for tornado safe rooms, and that's what the certifying agency needs to validate against. So their impact requirements for hurricanes, it's a 9-pound 2x4. For tornado, it's a 15-pound 2x4. For hurricanes, that 9-pound 2x4 needs to travel at
So for the maximum hurricane within, excuse me. So our standard Florida impacted doors are 50 feet per second with a 9-pound 2x4, and that's what you'd consider your standard Dade County door or Florida or TDI door, and that equates to about 35 miles an hour. The most recent Florida building code change for enhanced buildings, which would be your critical facilities, hospitals, fire stations, police stations, would be a Category 4 building, and that they increased the impact speed to 80 feet per second, which again is somewhere about 50 or 55 miles an hour. And those are the two columns that you see there on the left. So for normal Florida buildings, you'll see 2, which is representative of how many stories you would need to drop a standard 16-pound bowling ball to have the equivalent impact. And for the Category 4 buildings, you'd need a 6-story building. So you see there's quite a jump there. Then we start getting into the safe room criteria. And for a hurricane safe room, where you're still using that same 9-pound 2x4, for Miami-Dade area, the specified wind speed is 220 miles an hour, which means that the impact speed is 110 miles an hour. So that's what you're seeing there with that 23 stories dropping that bowling ball to be the equivalent of that hurricane impact. Then when we get into the tornado area, you step up to a 15-pound 2x4. But your speed decreases to 100 miles an hour. So if you're not familiar with it, and even being very much immersed in it, it's very difficult to relate those two. So that's why we have this chart. And you end up needing a 32-story building to drop a 16-pound bowling ball to have the equivalent impact. So you can see just even jumping up from your hurricane safe room, you're up over 9 stories taller for a tornado safe room.
Yeah. So I thought this slide was really nice because it was a little bit of a visual to kind of get, when we talk about impact at 100 miles per hour or a specific weight of a 2x4, it's really hard to put into words. This is telling me for that normal Florida building where it'd be 2 stories, we'd need that impact to rise, considerably, as if the bowling ball was dropped off a 32-story building. And of course, the StormDefender did pass all of the testing criteria. And in addition to that, there is funding. There is funding available. So when I said that there was a difference between FEMA 361 and ICC 500, there is a slight difference. Although ICC 500 is basically based on the guidance from FEMA, they are a little bit stringent on some other things as well. FEMA is a little bit more stringent. So for example, they need to have more first aid kits per person, or there are small changes like that make it just a little bit more stringent. And if a school or an organization wants to submit for funding, they need to be compliant to FEMA 361, and they have to fill out all the paperwork and all that good stuff. Now, the numbers on the slide were at the time, these were the numbers that we had. Since then, we found that in 2018, so you see in 2017 here, it was $90 million that FEMA had pre-mitigation grant money for. In 2018, that jumps to $235 million. So they understand that it makes much more sense to pay now to make these buildings more resilient than after the fact, because for every dollar spent in pre-mitigation, meaning before the event happens, they're saving $6 on the back end trying to rebuild areas, or, of course, you can't put a price on life lost and things like that. So they really did see the need to increase funding there, and people can apply for that funding as well as post-event money to rebuild. So again, demand was code-driven. This product, we were getting requests for it. We knew that code was changing, Tornado Alley especially, this was needed. Also, there were requests from hurricane areas, again, not mandated, but there are requests coming from there. And also, just in general, to shift to resilient buildings. It's about protecting life. So even in areas where this isn't mandated, so you might say, hey, my state isn't on the 2015 IBC yet, so does this affect me yet? The answer is yes, because it's not just about whether or not it's mandated, it's about whether or not it's right, or it works for the building, the organization, whoever it is. Schools that haven't been that aren't in states in that 2015 IBC criteria, they still have been creating safe rooms because the parents want it and the school board wants it and people want it. So they're finding ways to come up with the money and get these safe rooms in for the kids.
Okay, so next we have just a very brief FEMA testing video that we want to show you. So this is just a representation of the stringent testing that it goes through in order to meet the listings that our door meets. So I'm just going to play this for you. Okay, so again, that was just a brief snippet of the stringent testing that our StormDefender door has gone through in order to have the ICC 500 2014 listing that it does have. I also want to just give you a quick reminder. I see some people have their hands up, some for a while, some just recently. Any questions that you do have, please type them into the question portal, and then we will get those answered for you. So next we're going to move on to the StormDefender specifications. So we're going to start with the size limitations. The minimum door size on this is 3 foot by 3 foot. The maximum is 14 foot by 16 foot. And those are definite. So a lot of times you'll see some wiggle room one way or the other. On this door, those are the sizes as far as minimum and maximum. Next, we did a little bit of a side-by-side for a StormDefender slat and a service door slat. So the StormDefender slat is a 12 gauge 4-inch single slat. And as you can see, we did the side-by-side to show you the difference of a StormDefender versus a service slat. So there is quite a difference when it comes to the size. Next, the StormDefender bottom bar is also 12 gauge 4-inch single slat. This bar provides a uniform appearance with the rest of the curtain. It's a 12 gauge reinforced, there's also a 12 gauge reinforced piece that's inserted into the bottom bar for additional strength. And also there is no locking required once the door is closed. So next we're going to talk about finishes. The standard finish on this door would be steel with a gray Spectra Shield powder coat, but then we also offer optional finishes, which would be stainless steel, any of the other Spectra Shield powder coat colors, and then we also offer our weather-resistant Atmo Shield powder coat. I see we have a question, so I'm going to go ahead and we can address this now. The question is this the same door as the Riot door? So Trevor would be a good one to answer that.
Yeah, so what's being referred to there is our Entry Defender model, which will be coming out in the future. The base construction is extremely similar. There are a few additional features on the Entry Defender door to meet the requirements for the forced entry resistance. And we can detail that at a later date.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Trevor. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the specialized end locks. So the end locks on the StormDefender door are similar to our standard end locks, but these can be installed in the field without any special tools, rivets, or hardware. Also, the only time that they would be installed in the field is if the door was ordered unassembled. The only time someone is ordering a door that's unassembled is due to the lack of proper heavy equipment or due to space restrictions with getting the curtain in. Otherwise, the end locks will come installed on the end of the curtain slats. Next, the specialized wind locks. So the wind locks are cut into the ends of each of the slats, so they're engaged in the guide, and this is what prevents the curtain from pulling out of the guides during extreme wind. All right, now we're going to show you another brief video on assembling the curtain and specialized end locks. Again, this is only going to need to be done in the field if the customer orders the curtain unassembled. Otherwise, this will come to them pre-assembled. Okay, so as you can see, the end locks are really easy to install, but the only way they're going to have to do that is if they do order the curtain unassembled. So next we're going to talk about the operating system. The StormDefender door comes standard with the Alarm Guard operating system. So this allows the door to be connected to the building's alarm system or to default to the secure position under a power failure. Okay, so the StormDefender door can only be installed face of wall. Here we're showing you 3 guide construction options. So we have the Z guide, which is typically used to mount masonry. We have the tube guide, which is typically used with steel jambs. And then we also have the tube guide with shims. So this would be provided in the case that the mounting surface is uneven. And the shim should be inserted between the guide tube and the jamb structure. And the maximum thickness for the shims is 3/4 of an inch. The horn and strobe light does come standard on the StormDefender door, and this will activate when the door is operating. Some additional information that goes along with this door: it does have a lifetime cycle of 5,000, our standard 2-year warranty, and currently this is shipping from Mountaintop, Pennsylvania. So next we're just doing a little bit of a comparison between the StormDefender versus a wind-loaded service door, just to show you the difference. The gauge obviously is heavier on the StormDefender. We have a 12 versus an 18 or a 24. The wind lock design, we do have the end lock cutout locking the slat into the guide on the StormDefender. And on a wind-loaded service door, we have the 3-rivet end lock and 3-rivet wind lock. The PSF on a StormDefender is 300 versus 180 on a service door. And then we have the impact rating and the size ranges. So even though we're laying out these differences here, it's important to remember that you're never going to meet what you need to meet with a wind-loaded service door, but even if you could, certification is required. So you must test compliant with the ICC 500 standards, and the wind-loaded service door is not certified.
And be labeled.
And it must be labeled, which the StormDefender door is. Heather had touched on this briefly before, but just some applications for the StormDefender. It would be used over banks of windows, service areas, large space separation, counters, all in non-egress situations. The most common applications for these would be a K through 12 school, first response, community shelters, and then some secondary would be secondary education, mobile home communities, museums, and energy utility buildings. So some sales support materials that we're offering for the StormDefender, we have our standard feature sheet, but then we also have an ADA compliant sheet that's going to go through more of the codes. The technical sheet, we're going to be putting out some blogs on this, articles. It'll be featured on the website. We do have the RFIs posted on the Dealer Resource Center, along with specifications on both the Dealer Resource Center and the website. We currently have installation instructions. We have BIM objects that will be coming very soon, along with all the submittal documents on the DRC. We have a promotional video that will be coming out soon, along with a specialized installation video, which will also be coming out soon. So these are all items that we're offering in order to help you sell the product. Okay, so that concludes all the information that we have for you. I don't see any questions here that we haven't answered yet, but I'm going to give everyone, oh, there we go. We have some coming in. Hold on one moment. We answered that one. Okay, so how much additional labor installation time does this door require versus a standard service door? How much heavier are the StormDefender door guides than a standard service door?
So I'll start with the weights of the guides. The box guide or tube guide is probably similar weight to a medium duty wind-loaded service door guide. And the Z guide is similar in weight to a heavy duty wind-loaded service door guide. So kind of based on your size range, the Z guide would be equivalent to a much wider, higher wind load door in like the 20 to 25 foot range, and the tube guide would be similar to a guide in the probably 14 to 16 foot range. In terms of the installation time, because the curtain is coming wrapped on shaft, that should save you a little bit of time in terms of installation. And then in terms of installing the anchors, on a Z guide, there are quite a few. So I would probably say estimate 1.5 to 2 times the amount of time that would take you to drill the holes into concrete. And then for our tube guide, they're just welding up the tube to steel structure. So that should be very similar as if you were welding up a standard box guide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Trevor. So that is all the questions that we have right now. And again, I'm going to give everyone a minute or two to enter any questions. Oh, here comes one. Do you have any of these doors installed yet?
We do have a door. We have a few that are getting ready to ship out. There is one installed in a facility in North Dakota, and then we have a few coming up for some schools in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that's in addition to the numerous units that we've installed for both the testing at the third-party agency to get the certification, as well as units that we've installed in-house to test.
Okay, again, we'll give everyone another minute and see if we have any more questions come in. We just had another one come in. So any plans for an insulated curtain?
I can say that we've looked at an insulated curtain, but honestly, most people aren't looking for an insulated curtain, either because it's going inside of a bank of windows. I want to say that 90% of these are going in front of a bank of windows or going into a non-conditioned space, and it's part of the inside, although it's the envelope of the safe room, it's not necessarily going to be on the outside of the building, or it doesn't require any insulation. So at this time, we're not looking at any insulated versions.
The next question: when will we have the installation video available. So we're just finishing up the final touches on that, and we hope to have that available within the next week or week and a half. And then we will be sending announcements out when they are available, so everyone is aware that they're out there and can be accessed. How much additional headroom is required versus a service door?
When relating it to an insulated door, being that has a larger coil size, you're only looking at a few extra inches on a 10 by 10 door. Maybe an extra 2, maybe 3 inches.
Okay, thanks, Trevor. Will Cookson offer installation on site? So I'm going to assume you're probably talking about the installation services team. So that's something that you can definitely talk to Dade about, and I can get his information over to you after this training. I will send it over to you, and you can contact him and talk to him about that.
And he has been participating in the installs with knowing that his team will be doing installs in the field. So the answer is yes. If you need it, it would be Dade's group.
How much would a 10-foot by 10-foot StormDefender door weigh?
So the curtain itself is a little bit under 11 pounds a square foot. Trying to think back to shaft weight and curtain weight all together, you'd probably be somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 pounds to kind of give you an idea of the heaviest part that you'd need to move around in one piece. And again, if you were limited by your equipment, that's why we offer the option to field assemble the curtain with those end locks that you really only need a pair of pliers to take care
of. Can you tie this unit into emergency management admin systems?
Yeah, with the alarm guard operator, you'd hook it up to any alarm system as you would any other fire door. So as long as there's a signal coming in, it really could be connected to any alarm system that you wanted.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this product. That comes standard. So when you order this door, that is exactly what it's used for. Now they don't need to use it to release on alarm, but it's there.
The next question is, will the dealer be able to price this product?
Yes, they should be able to price it right now. It's in our system right now.
Okay, we'll just give everyone one more minute in case they want to get any last minute questions in. After alarm signal is cleared, will the door reset itself or will it need field service?
Yes, with the alarm guard, it will be able to auto reset. You won't need anything like that.
Lead time for delivery after approving the shop drawings.
Right now, for lead time, we're looking at 4 to 6 weeks as it's a new product. For the first few months, we're going to be thinking it's more towards 6 weeks. We hope to eventually get that to 4 weeks. And just as a side note to that point, sign drawings are required for all StormDefenders.
Are there any safety features on the bottom bar?
So you do have an optional Sensen Edge as a safety feature. Standard, you would get just a normal astragal.
And then I think we touched on this, but just in case we didn't, this door automatically locks, and it doesn't need any manual locking of any kind. You don't need to push a slide bolt. So if this is up in a bank of windows, you don't need a cord to pull the slide bolt over. Everything is hands off.
And to Heather's point, that's a great feature when they're in schools that, the teacher or the person attending to the occupants or the children in the school, the last thing they want to worry about is having to lock the door. So in this situation, the door goes down and it's ready to defend. How many positions for the operating motor?
Right now we have front of coil and top of coil as standard, but you'd be able to look at any motor mounting that we offer today as a consult factory option.
Okay. Any training for installation required?
Installation, it's not required. This is very much like any of our service doors. It does require more anchors, and it is a little bit heavier, but other than that, it is very similar to our service door or any service door. When we'll have the installation video, and we have installation instructions right now ready for you guys. So if you want to take a peek at it, that's up. Again, the video will be up shortly.
Yeah, so to give you an idea of the guides and the quantity of anchors, the box guides will be welded up every 10 inches on both sides of the tube. And then on the Z guides, it's a little bit different than your normal Z guide. You have actually 2 columns of anchors. You have your anchors in your standard position through the wall angle, set further away from the opening, and those are spaced 12 inches on center. And then you have a smaller column of smaller anchors closer to the opening to deal with the increased loads, and those are spaced 6 inches on center. But again, those are at a shallower embedment depth.
The next question is all of the technical and product data on the Dealer Resource Center now? Yes, all that information has been posted. So we do have all the literature, specifications, that has all been posted on both the DRC and the public website. And like I said, we will have the installation video coming very soon along with BIM objects. Otherwise, everything has been posted and available. The next question, will all wall anchor bolts be furnished with each door?
Yes, all the anchors required to attach the door to the jam structure will be provided, as these are part of our certification and can't be substituted.
Can the door be installed to grout-filled masonry jams?
No, our doors can only be installed to solid concrete, 4,000 psi, and then steel jams as well. And there should be no rolling door manufacturer that has a certified door that can mount to grout-filled CMU.
All right, we'll just give everyone one more minute just in case, again, we want to get in any last minute questions. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in at this time. If you do end up having some additional questions, please feel free to email us at marketing@cornellcookson.com. We can either answer that question or get it distributed to to someone that can or get the answer for you. So again, any additional questions, please feel free to contact us. And thank you for attending the StormDefender door training.